evening, and welcome to episode 16 of the Midweek podcast. And this week we're joined by two special guests. We have Magnus from Ubisoft Nordic as the Nordic Communications Manager, and also Joe, the developer for Song of Iron, who's joining us again for the third time.
Hey.
Nearly a panel member himself.
We're working on it.
Working on it. And also we have three of our regular panel members. So Archimedes joins us along with Pache and Shomberlon. So first of all, we'll go through the introductions. So our first time guest here, Magnus Sanford from Ubisoft Nordic. Again, the Nordic Communications Manager there. How are you doing today, brother? How's it been going?
Yeah, well, I finally have some time to actually breathe and just get some fresh air and just sit down and just watch a screen and not working on a screen. First time in I don't even know when. But it's all good,
Yeah, sweet. Have you had a chance then to sit back and I know obviously today I've been seeing you kind of saying just keep sharing those screenshots, keep sharing them all. I want to see more and more. Have you had a chance to actually sit and play the game at all today? Or
in regards of Assassin's Creed, I have only played the games when I have set them up for others to try them. So I actually haven't had time to play the game like for my own experience yet. So I've played for the intro 15 times ish, but that's about it.
Right. You'll be pretty used to that intro sequence now.
Yes. That's the curse of having this profession.
Yeah. I think Joe will know all about that one as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, very familiar with that. Masters of the first 5 minutes.
Yep.
And jumping nicely into Go on.
Go on.
I was going to say jump nicely into our next guest, Joe. From
Hey.
How are you doing today, brother?
I'm doing good.
Opportunity to kind of catch up with all the next gen goodness yet?
No, I have not.
Yet.
I've been. Yeah, my nose is on the stone as it were, grinding away on songs still. So I'm gonna have to wait. I think most other people, yeah. But I'm watching, and it's very interesting. I'm very excited about it. So I can't wait to have that little break to dive in.
Yeah. To be fair, I've noticed you posting quite a lot of updates as well for the game recently. A lot of I think it's more frequent now. He's doing a lot more kind of is it not meaningful updates now you're adding to it and meaningful kind of revisions you're putting in there?
Yeah, I think so. I've been pushing pretty hard to get it like up on all the systems it needs to be on too. So that's been kind of the interesting stuff. Like I got my kit running right over here, working through all those sort of issues and stuff. So it's been a technical grind lately too. So it's been a little bit harder than normal, but
yeah,
just got to keep it going. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
getting there. Brilliant. Okay. And Pache, first and foremost, how are you doing today, brother? What you been up to? What you been playing?
I've been doing good. Had some pretty long days, hard days at work. Since Monday we are working with a new system, so you need to get used to it. But after 2 days, it runs much better than Monday, because Monday was a pretty long day for me.
Yeah.
What I've been playing, I've been playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey because I recently got it from Head of Finn, of course.
Yeah.
And after EA Access came on the Game Pass, I started yesterday with Unravel 2.
Ah, yes, yeah.
Yeah, because I played the first one, and I was pretty excited when we got the news that EA Access was also coming to the Game Pass. So I just directly installed it and took a look today, and also, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful game. There's some great mechanics in that game as well, to be fair.
Yeah, it's really awesome. Yeah, they did a really good job on the game.
Sweet. And obviously, without asking, you've obviously been jumping onto PUBG quite a bit as well.
Yeah. This weekend I've played, of course, many games, but yeah, like from Monday I didn't play that much. So take it easy on the PUBG and just trying to play some other games.
It's worthwhile. There is a lot of other things you need to catch up with.
Yeah, exactly.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Shomberlon, we have a working internet connection this week. How's it going today, brother?
Yeah, not bad. I don't know what happened last week. It was just not playing fair.
Not playing ball.
It was going into like the kilobytes rather than the megabytes. That's how bad it went at one point. So,
dear me. How are you anyway? How are you?
I'm all right. I was just trying to catch up with downloading everything onto the Series X.
Yeah, that's the killer on launch day. Just re-downloading all of your library.
Well, it's not so bad with the just transferring from
one to another. It's more the update sizes for the enhanced games.
And everybody's trying to do it. So at the moment, I normally run around about 60 down, and I'm running at 15 at the moment.
Yeah, so it's just dragging its heels.
Yeah, so I'm not today. I just started playing Valhalla about an hour ago.
Nice.
I've just without giving any story away. I have just found the first sync point.
Right. Yes.
I'm about 2 minutes past the sync point of the first bit. So I'm literally right at the beginning of the game.
Yeah. There's a lot going for that game, to be fair. I thought it's straight into open world, especially at the beginning part before you kind of get to anything else. So I was like, oh, do I go exploring now or do I wait?
Well, the mechanics are vastly different. Well, yeah, I'd say vastly different to Odyssey, because I've been playing a lot of Odyssey this week, pretty much, because I never finished that. So I was like, I'll try and blast through as much of that as I can. And there is different, which is, for me, it's nice. It's nice that it's like, I thought that Origins to Odyssey was very, very similar. Which is good in one way because you're familiar, you know everything, you can get straight into it. But so far, like I said, I'm on at the beginning. I do like the direction it's gone in. I kind of hope. I've heard that it's kind of focusing a bit more on the original Assassin's Creed in terms of gameplay and style and story. At least that's what I've heard. I hope that's right, because I would say I'm more of a fan of the direction of the first trilogy. I do like the open world. Well, I do like the open world, but I think from that it misses out on the Templar side of things within the actual game.
Yeah,
which I really liked.
I was going to say we'll get into it, and you'll probably be a little bit pleasantly surprised. I think Magnus will kind of know about that as well. Even within the first couple of hours, you'll be pleasantly surprised how it links into the originals a bit more.
So it's a good series. I do enjoy it. I do enjoy the Assassin's Creed series. And yeah, that's pretty much what I've been playing. I obviously jumping between a couple of games just to go, ooh, that's shiny fast. I think the biggest one was Red Dead 2.
Right.
Red Dead 2 was probably the quickest. I'd stepped back going, my wife came in to chat with me, and I was talking, and I looked, went, flipping heck, it's loaded already. It was like, let me just do that again. Let me just make sure that it's that quick. Yeah, it was very, very quick. It's normally like a 2.5 minute odd load.
Yeah, it's about 30 seconds or something now, isn't it?
Yeah. And then I've just been doing probably what everybody else has been doing, by just jumping between games to see the quick resume and being impressed every time.
It's testing everything out.
Yeah, it still works. It still works. It's great. Yeah.
I really have to get used to my gaming habits again, because usually whenever a loading screen pops up, I pull out my smartphone and go to something. It's just not worth it anymore.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say last but not least anyway, Archimedes, how are you doing today? What have you been up to?
Doing good. I have 2 days off work. I took 2 days off work for the launch of the Xbox Series X. So I've been getting that yesterday. Been downloading a lot of games, of course, and then I played basically all night and worked the whole day on my latest video. So nice. I'm really enjoying the new system. Been playing a lot of Valhalla too. I really had to pull myself away because I wanted to capture some footage from other games and try some other games out. You know, I played Watch Dogs the last 2 weeks. incredible game. I was so surprised by how much fun I had with that game. And I'm not just saying that because Magnus is here today. I truly mean it.
Keep on going.
I started that.
An email saying be nice about the game. What have you just said? Just praise it.
I really enjoyed that game. I was really not sure whether it turns out to be fun, because with the whole permadeath thing and everything, I was worried about, okay, you don't get a decent story or whatever. But the game itself is so well done, and I had so much fun. So I finished that. Or I didn't finish it properly. I saved the last mission for the Series X, so I did that to at least see the shiny ray tracing. Then I jumped to Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Wow! Just wow! I played it in 120 frames. Incredible, but. The other mode that was new is the 6K rendering mode, and then it gets super sampled down to 4K, and it looks insanely good. Such a beautiful game. What else have I tried? I tried Gears Tactics. I played that for 2 hours or so.
Right.
Really good.
Yeah.
So good. The controls are really well transferred from PC to a controller. I highly recommend that. I will be saving that. I won't continue that. I first want to continue with Valhalla, but really good game. That's basically what I've been up to. So, and tomorrow I also have a day off work. Then it's I have to go back, but I'll be playing probably Valhalla tomorrow for 10 hours or something.
That's my thing as well. To be fair, it's sitting on in the background, and I'm like itching to play a bit more of it. I think I played about 3 hours yesterday, and I was like, I wish I could stay up, but I'm not young anymore. I've got to get up for work. I can't do this all night stuff anymore. God, I wish. I really wish. But yeah, we'll jump straight into it then. We'll jump straight into it. Of course, one of our main guests this week is from Ubisoft Nordic. And we will be kind of diving a little bit more into those two games, of course, that have really kind of shown off the console, not just the Xbox, of course, on its launch, but jump just before launch with Watch Dogs Legions, and now with the launch of PlayStation 5 tomorrow in the US, and next week, of course, for the rest of Europe. It'll be one of the main games, or two of the main games that both platforms will be playing upon launch. So we will dive into kind of our experiences on those games, what our thoughts are, and of course, asking a few questions and learning a bit more about the games and the lore and the thoughts behind it from Magnus himself. So we shall begin. First of all, Magnus, how's it? You mentioned, of course, before we kind of went live, how it's been working on the games and quite stressful and quite busy, of course. And based on the circumstances that we find ourselves in at the minute, working to release two major titles kind of back to back in the space of a week. How have you found kind of, I suppose, the feedback from fans as well upon the launch of both games recently? Kind of been pushing the team on to kind of continue with what they've been doing, as it really kind of drove a buzz around everything? And how have you found the launch internally with Ubisoft? I've seen a few things. I know a few of the guys from Ubisoft Reflections in Newcastle myself. As you'll know, we've got one of your studios here as well. And they've had, especially the launch of Watch Dogs Legions, sending cars around and smoke billowing from them and everything like that on launch day, going around to all the different people's houses that have worked on the game. So I see the team's really kind of hyped up about it. How's the kind of launch period been for you guys, other than just being hectic? Has it been exciting?
Yeah, of course, but because we had to rethink more or less every single plan we had, because more or less every physical like activation or launch we had to rethink, because once we had we thought that this Corona stuff were finally going away, it all of a sudden exploded again. So we had to we had a lot of cool stuff planned. In all the 4 countries we were working with, but then all of a sudden we had to like rethink and go more and more digital. So that took thankfully I'm pretty used to working and doing having new plans and stuff. So my 10 years of experience actually helped me a lot. Otherwise, I would probably have freaked out when everything were like tossed up in the air and you had to make new plans. But in the end, it worked out pretty well. I did a little launch stunt at the office. I did a little cosplay where I were dressed like a street artist. So I had the full gear I looked like one of the characters in the game with a full face mask and a full suit and everything. And I made a little competition at the office to just get the mood up. For those few people actually at the office.
Yeah.
More or less half of them are working from home. But, well, I think, the energy were there. We are a team of 2 in the communication, so we have divided the titles between us, but we more or less work on everything because it's easier that way.
Yeah, so, try and share the workload.
Yeah, we have to do that. Otherwise, I would have regret me taking on 2 AAA games.
I can fully imagine that. Like I say, I did see a few of the kind of cosplayer type things around different Ubisoft studios. So it was really fun to see. It definitely lifted the mood for a lot of those even working from home, because I know a few of the communications guys over this side. That's kind of lifted their moods as well. So that's a hats off there to kind of keep the keep spirits high, given the fact that everyone's been stuck in the house for so long. I think Joe knows all too well developing from home. Himself.
Yeah. There's no move in here. This is where I live now, 24/7.
So he's probably even got a little sofa bed sitting there just when he finishes. Just...
Yeah, we're talking about putting a couch right here.
To have a quick nap between games.
Yeah, exactly. Luckily, I got a comfy chair, so.
Yeah. But even saying that, I'm going to ask you a tough question, Magnus. Obviously, working on the Nordic side, you might have a favourite, but out of the 2 games that you've just launched, what is your favourite title? Like, you can't wait to actually physically sit down and play after you've spent so long.
You could literally ask me which of my sons I love the most, but more or less the same thing here.
Yes,
but
yes.
I do. I'm a fan of both games, but I have to be honest. Before the launch, it was actually Watch Dogs, because I love the theme of this. Dark and gritty, but still a lot of humor and a lot of different aspects into the game. But I am from the Nordics. I did a DNA test a few years ago for some strange reason, and I found out I was 99% Norse. So Viking blood all over it. So Assassin's Creed is probably the winner in the long run.
Yeah.
that was the first love. I fell in love with Assassin's Creed when the second game came out, and I started working at Ubisoft when Brotherhood came out. So, I've been there more or less from the beginning.
Very nice, very nice.
Legit.
Sharma, did you? I think you wanted to ask a couple of questions here. You look like you were about to.
No, I was going to say Assassin's Creed 2 kind of influenced my honeymoon choice of where I went on the honeymoon. Going to Venice for my honeymoon, which was surprisingly accurate. I kind of knew my way around a little bit. With Venice, it's always fun anyway, because you point yourself in a direction and go, right, I'm going to go that way, and you never go the same way twice. But finding certain places, kind of going, right, well, if I go in that direction, I know this plaza's over here. If I go in this direction, I know that's there.
But you didn't start climbing buildings and stuff.
In my mind.
Oh, all right.
My wife's looking at me like, will you stop looking at that building? You can't climb it.
But that's actually a funny thing, because Assassin's Creed created a lot of, what would you say, like game tourism. There were a lot of people going to those places, especially in Italy, to go to those cities where the game actually took place. And we see a lot of that, or increase. Although, I mean, the Ezio trilogy, that actually made people go to Italy to go to those cities and like take pictures of where they have played the game. And yeah, that was actually a pretty cool thing. So I hope we'll see the same thing with Valhalla, to get people to the north of Norway and freeze to death.
No, definitely. To be fair,
that'll be a surprise.
Yeah, we're going to ship fans out to freeze to death.
I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, it's nothing. I haven't seen anything near that anywhere in the world, but it's freezing cold, and there is a reason the Vikings left that place.
Oh yeah,
it was not for the panorama photos. I mean, they had to get some food somewhere.
So they came over to Jorvik and stayed ever since.
Did a small detour to Lindisfarne to do some shopping.
Yeah.
When at uni I studied in my first year Celtic civilization, and I was pleasantly surprised to find out that Dublin in Ireland is actually a Viking settlement. It was originally a Viking settlement.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, that's one of the things I like especially about this new Assassin's Creed Valhalla, is that obviously all of the more historically accurate places you're going to, especially like I say with Jorvik, or York as you know it now, in the UK, and Lindisfarne. Obviously you've got Stonehenge and everything in there as well, but a lot of the places that they have done, and the expansions as well that you've got coming up, is honestly can't wait for it. When it comes to especially for the kind of research for all of this, is a lot of it obviously just going off of history, and obviously knowing quite a lot of the Nordic history anyway. Was it relatively easy to go and kind of do that research without having to do physical research, or was there quite a lot of physical research going on as well with all of these places?
There were a lot of physical research. There were actually a huge team from the studio who went to Norway. They went to Lofoten Islands up in Norway, where you have the fjords that actually are where the starts in the game are actually based upon. There is a Lofoten Viking Hotel, which is one in a lifetime opportunity to go there, because it's unique. And then they went to something called the Viking Ship Museum in Denmark, where they actually got to go by longship and try to row those longships, and they got, I mean, an introduction how those works. And then they went to England, to a few of those places where the Vikings came and did their shopping trips. So they actually did a lot of physical traveling to actually see what it looked like, and try the old instruments, the food, talk to historians, try the ships, sleep in their houses, and all that. They did that physically.
Wow.
That's cool.
That's a lot, man.
But
Go on.
I mean, that's what it takes. I mean, but then again, people more or less from the first trailer say, okay, that's not historically accurate. There were no castles that looked like that, and they didn't wear fur like that, and blah blah blah. But I mean, Assassin's Creed has always been a game. It's not meant to be a historical simulation. It's based on history.
Yeah, exactly.
And you need to see the difference between those two things. I mean, you still need to have a game which is action driven, which has like a playability. So I mean, that's the difference people need to. I mean, you have the Animus. I mean, hello.
Yeah.
Magnus,
Nobody look at that. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a question. I just popped in here. My name
out of nowhere.
Yeah, my name's Carlo, aka Clowns. And I love the history, that even though it wasn't 100% accurate, like you said, I mean, you guys do put that disclaimer on there all the time, but I really did love the Assassin's Creeds that took place in Italy, and I loved Odyssey. I mean, that just really blew my mind, some of the stuff in there that you guys put in. And with Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I'm really excited to play it. I got the Xbox Series X, and I really can't wait to get into it. And what really, I mean, I have to say that out of all mythology, like Norse mythology, Viking mythology is like some of my most favorite of all time. I think that the Vikings were a very unique people, and the way that they chose to settle, the way that they chose to survive. I mean, it was really survival of the fittest back then, and they were a tough bunch to make it through those cold, harsh winters and find food and fight wildlife the way they did.
Mm-hmm.
When you guys developed the stories and the side quests for Valhalla, how much freedom do you guys have? Is it like a large group of people that come up with the idea? Is it like maybe 2 or 3 guys that come up with the idea? And does it always have to be based or surround itself around a little bit of factual mythology, and then you guys can change it and exaggerate it? How does all that work when you come up with the stories or the side quests?
Well, you always have a lead person that's like the creative director or the narrative director. That's always wants to have that to take the main role. But you always have a group. I can't speak for every game, but you usually have one group of people who writes all the side quests, and then you have like a couple of guys who are doing like the main story bits of the game, and then on top of them, you have the narrative director that puts everything together. But when it comes to if it has to be based on like true events, both yes and no. I mean, we always take like something historical, like an historical a battle, a betrayal, or whatever that has happened in the past, and try to fit it into the narrative somehow. But to get it playable, we sometimes have to cut. I mean, something that happens over a period of like 2 years maybe happens in a period of 5 minutes in a game just to make it playable. So I'm not envy of those people who actually put all those red threads together, because that's some work. It takes a lot of work to get that together and make it something really cool that stands out. And I mean, but Assassin's Creed and most of those action games that are based on historical happenings are usually taken with a lot of creative freedom. Otherwise, it wouldn't be that fun of a game in the end.
It'd be quite brutal.
Yeah.
Especially with the Viking history, it would just be very brutal.
Yeah, but a funny thing with Vikings, and the same with pirates. When we did Assassin's Creed Black Flag, I mean, there's a lot of fighting and a lot of pirates using swords and attacking people. But in the real life, pirates usually avoided violence. They were so scary, so they could actually scare most trade vessels to just hand over without any bloodshed. Yeah. And it was actually more or less the same thing with Vikings, because Vikings had such a reputation that they sometimes just could, convince people to surrender. They were warriors, but they were also farmers. And they were like sailors and fishermen. They were like all trade type of people. So they were very well-rounded. They were strong from rowing their own boats. They didn't have any slaves to row their boats. They had slaves, but they rowed the boats themselves, which gave them insane muscles. Yeah. And but they could intimidate people to surrender before they had to raise any axes or whatever. At least in the beginning, before people got to know who they actually were. But And another when it comes to
farmers, weren't they?
Yeah, they were farmers and traders, and I mean, history has portrayed them as brutes, and yeah, they were brutes at times, but it was brutal times in general. I mean, people were killing people all over the world, but I mean, most of the time they spent with their families at home. They were fishing, they were trading with other nations. They went all the way down to what we call Turkey today, and they went all over the oceans to Vinland, which is Canada or North America. So, I mean, they were explorers. They wanted to meet people.
Yeah. That was pretty much it. They wanted to go new places. Well, later on, anyway, they wanted to expand a little bit more after the initial, especially like you mentioned, looking for greener pastures, better places to farm. And that was primarily the reason for expansion. It was down to farming land and better places to expand and kind of grow further as a civilization.
I think they showed that pretty beautifully in the Viking series when they arrived to England, and they just want to have a little bit of land where they can actually smell the dirt and plant their seeds and farm their cows and do whatever, because that's what it's all about for them.
Yeah.
You know, Magnus, that's one thing I was going to say is that the show The Vikings has really hooked me more into the Viking lore. And I'm really sad the show's coming to an end. So is there any way you can convince anyone at Ubisoft to make a Viking series show and put it on Netflix? Because that would be awesome.
Yeah, well, we're going to start with something assassin. That's the first steps, and let's see what happens after that.
Nice. And you know, WandrinDutch has like a Viking beard too. You know, he's got that Viking beard going. Maybe you put him in there.
There you go.
Usually have the old beard braid in with all the different charms and whatnot, but not tonight. Not tonight. Give the beard a bit of a break. No, it's like I think we've touched on this with Joe as well. Obviously, making Viking games, you have to slightly embellish it. You can't just, and I've mentioned this, you'll know this as well, Magnus. If you designed the game around actual Viking clothing, it would be a very ugly sight.
Oh yeah, it would. It would.
And the expansions and add-ons for clothing wouldn't be that interesting to look at.
No. I mean, most of the information we actually know today about Vikings actually comes from England, and the British Islands, because over here we didn't have pen and paper. We had just whole hammers and stones. So the stories we wrote down up here were not that sophisticated. Well, they were, but they were not that long and not that covering that much. So most of the information we have about Vikings today comes from outside of the Nordic region. Written a couple of hundred years after, or by people that were like scared of the Vikings or hated the Vikings, or they portray them as brutes and stuff. So that's where most of the information and the mystery behind the Vikings comes from. So that's why it's a perfect timing period to do a game about, because you have a little bit more freedom than other areas.
Yeah. And the stories that were told, and I think Joe will know this. I mean, if you want to go into it, Joe, because I know you were about to say something there about the freedoms of it, but go on.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think one of the interesting things too, just about that general northern region is it's one of the sort of fountains of cultures of just humans across the planet. I think Mongolia area was another one where just cultures just kept flooding down and taking over areas, but they were always looking for places to farm, like we're talking about. But it just happened over and over and over again. I mean, a lot of France comes from up there way longer than that, and it's just a crazy, interesting region that, because of the no writing, we know so little about it. But just constant waves of humanity were coming out of that northern area, and it's really cool Dan Carlin, if you guys know anything about him. It's Hardcore History is his kind of like podcast show. He talks about, I think he calls them Thor's Angels is the one about that region. It's super interesting to listen to. Yeah, I think it's super cool. But yeah, because of that, you kind of get a little soft pass on some of the history. But I think, and it's probably the same for you guys on Ubisoft. It's great to start from the truth and then move in, and then find the game from there. Because if you kind of start from something overly fantastical and then try to bring reality in, is I think where you get more lost than anything else. But
yeah. I mean, the reason they went to that trip was to lay the foundation where they could build the storyline out of, and they found the perfect timing when that was, I think, more or less the second wave that went to the British Islands after Ragnar Lothbrok, and all those guys went there to do the first exploration. So so it's more or less based out of that.
Yeah,
that was the foundation of it. But as far as I remember, they call everyone who came from the Nordic region, they call them all Danes.
Yes.
No matter if they were Swedes or if they were Danish or Norwegian, they were all Danes.
Yeah.
We like to group people together, don't we? Humans.
Yeah, that's the way it is.
That's, I mean, like you said, though, the embellishment, it kind of, the embellishment on Nordic history does come from on the Christian depiction of the Norse.
Yeah.
Especially with them raiding, etc. I mean, one of the famous ones is the description of the Valkyrie, and especially Lagertha. She's described as being able to fly over the battlefield and throwing lightning bolts and firing arrows down onto the enemy. And obviously that is completely mythical. It never happened, but their depiction of what that person did, as far as we were concerned, that is what happened during that battle. Of course, we know that wasn't the case, and Valkyrie, of course, weren't kind of flying over the battlefield on winged horses or anything like that. But they were fierce warrior, kind of not even shield maiden. They were kind of beyond that stage, the Valkyrie. There were obviously the gods and whatnot. But again, that kind of the fact that the Norse mythology is shrouded in kind of mystery to a point as well, where what is real and what isn't real, and even to this day we don't quite know what is the truth or what isn't the truth about some of their lore. That kind of helps with storytelling within kind of Norse as well. There's so many different avenues.
It does. It does, because I mean, if you do something like wild and crazy on the theme of Vikings, I mean, who's going to tell you that? I know for a fact that didn't happen. Do you?
Yeah. Exactly.
So
exactly. And it's.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go on. Go for it.
Magnus, I had another question for you. When you guys were researching Viking lore and doing everything on the game, one thing I found very interesting about Vikings, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, but I saw this on a documentary, is that Vikings are actually credited with starting the first real democracy. They started their own democratic council. And that was very interesting to me because they were always, like everybody in the panel has said, they were always pictured as brutes according to Christianity and savages or godless people. And it turns out that in general, Vikings actually saw more community and coming together and creating their own democracy for survival purposes. And I thought that was like completely amazing, because a real savage, type of people would not do something like that. So when I heard that, I was impressed, and I think that the Vikings don't get credited for a lot of what they deserve.
No, I totally agree. They had voting. They had wherever had it, everybody in that ting. It's actually called ting in the Nordic language, which is a gathering of all all the citizens in the village, and they all had a say. They could like discuss everything. Everybody had the right to speak their mind. But there were like exceptions, as far as I remember, that women were not allowed to vote and slaves were not allowed to vote, but all men were allowed to vote. I mean, and that was not the case if you go further into the Middle Ages. That disappeared again, and that was only the nobility that has a say. But back then, no matter if you were a fisher or if you were like the chieftain or whatever, you had a say. You could vote. You could get your point proven, or yeah.
Well, I mean, on Clowns, obviously speaking about Vikings, the TV show previously, but they did actually show something like that in one of the latter episodes on one of the final seasons, a voting between all the different kings to vote for what the kind of king of kings of Norway, and vote them in, and throwing a coloured disc into the lake to kind of choose which one was to lead, etc. And that was kind of, like you say, a democratic vote. It was all based on who they believe, and discussing within their clans who they think they should vote for, and putting that vote into a ring, as it were. And then whoever had the most discs won. It was, and essentially, like you mentioned, one of the first kind of voting methods, a democratic vote, as it were. But it's mad how it's expanded into that. I mean, Magnus, one of the things I want to kind of go on to, because I know Sean will be interested in this, is obviously the tie-in on the new Assassin's Creed, more so now. I've noticed it on this one anyway, with the original Assassin's Brotherhood, which is a very interesting inclusion on this one. How hard was it to actually fit in? I know obviously you need to stick true to the Assassin's Creed to a point as well in these games, as opposed to just going fully Spartan or fully Nordic and then not kind of having something assassin in there. But how hard was it to think about how hard was it for the team to think about implementing the kind of brotherhood into the Nordic setting on this occasion?
Well, I don't know the exact details of how they actually made that happen, but if you think about the period, this period is not that far from when we have the first Assassin's Creed. It's just a couple of 100 years before. So I mean, the Brotherhood is, the hidden ones are there, and it's like 1,000 years after Odyssey.
Yeah.
So I mean, you have all those elements, and it's, I mean, for the later Assassin's Creed games, they take place in Jerusalem. That takes place in Italy. I mean, it was all those. I mean, the Creed and the Brotherhood and the Templars and the Hidden Ones, they were already active when this game is set. I'm just thinking of a bit much now, so I don't spoil anything for anyone.
That's the hard part, isn't it?
I'm very careful when I'm talking about it, but yeah, I mean, you have it all set up, but you're gonna find out exactly how the connection comes into place. Not that far into the game, but
yeah.
Well, I don't want to say too much.
I think I just played that part you are talking about.
It's a very interesting way to bring it in, but to be fair, it also makes sense for me, because a lot of, especially the way they've brought the Brotherhood into the game as well, kind of aligns with the way that they would have done, not just for the Brotherhood, but anybody of different backgrounds into their world, which was obviously, whether it be monks or anything like that, as you know, kind of the traded monks quite a few times when they've pillaged and raided, but also anybody else, whether it be kind of slaves or farmhands or workers or warriors, whatever they had, and bring them into the clan. I think it was a very interesting way of bringing the Brotherhood into the game as well. I mean, obviously that isn't. We could probably speak about the Norse route in Valhalla all day long, and I know a few people who haven't had a chance to play that as yet, or play as much of it as they want to. Pat being one of them, because he's still playing through Odyssey at the minute. But I mean, one of the tie-ins that I did like, and especially when I playing through Odyssey, is I knew how well the kind of these ships were going to work based on Odyssey. I think Odyssey did it better than Black Flag, and obviously a lot of people can disagree. I don't know about you, Magnus, but I think the way the kind of the water battles and the crew and expanding your crew and changing your ship and upgrading it, things like that, worked a lot better in Odyssey than it did in Black Flag.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look back, the first game where you were introduced to ship battles, and that thing was Assassin's Creed 3. And we had a lot of learnings from it. And it was let me see if I recall right, it was the Shanghai studio who made that possible, the water animations and all that, which was amazing, and I loved it. And then in Black Flag, they just made it bigger. The water levels in that game is huge. Yeah. But it took another turn when you have Origins. You had like those small, the Nile Delta. You had to think a little bit different, but there were not that many ship battles.
Yeah.
But then in Odyssey, they made a combination of those two. I mean, if you take the huge battles you had in Black Flag, and then the narrow ones, more tactical ones you had in Origin, and then you merge those two together. So you had the Mediterranean Sea, where you have a little bit more space, but it's still kind of narrow. And I just spent hours running around and running into other ships, splitting them in half. I love that feature, and using the Greek fire. Whoa, I could do that for like forever. I loved it.
Yeah, it was really good. I found it was quite easy as well. I mean, after initially you kind of try to avoid ships because especially when you're trying to get to some of the places you need to go, you tend to find you get overwhelmed quite quickly, especially with some of the larger level ships.
Yeah.
But as soon as you've got your level up in kind of even just a little bit, you tend to find you just go in all guns blazing. You're like, come on, let's just take them all on, start running people over and smashing into them, and then they try to run away. But I mean, I haven't got the position yet myself, unfortunately, where we can do a little bit more of the ships and obviously go into the longboats and things like that from the Norse as yet. But is there a lot of similarities as well? Were you bringing across the longboats into Valhalla?
Well, there's not that many ship battles in this game. You have, it's more, I mean, the longships were mostly made for transporting people, like troop carriers back in the days. And they were built in such a way so they could actually reach far, far inland, because they could go where there were very shallow, and I mean, they could reach really, really far upstreams.
Yeah.
So that's mostly what it's used for. Also, you use them for your raids, where you can call your the group of people you have with you in your boat that help you out with the raids, and that's a new feature in this game. We haven't had that before. So you see like monasteries and small villages and stuff, and you can choose if you want to start a raid. You can actually, the fun thing is that you can actually start attack yourself. You can just abandon your ship, go up, start doing some stuff, and then when you mess up, like I usually do, you just bring out your horn and call for your boys and girls to come help you out, and they come from the ship running and throwing axes.
So I haven't tried blowing the horn yet, so I'll have to give that one a chance. But I do love how it can literally just as soon as you get near an island, it is very much on the Odyssey spectrum. Instead of just looking at a ship and obviously you shout out to your crew to get ready. On this one, they kind of point out certain islands, even if it's the smaller islands as well, and shout, "Look at that! It's such and such over here. We can take it. Let's go." And then you can choose whether or not you want to raid. So I do like the kind of the kind of flip towards that instead of going into open water battles, more kind of using it as a landing craft. And
the Vikings were not that much like the naval warfare people. They preferred to reach land before they were like bringing out the axes and stuff. I mean, they were carrying a lot of heavy stuff, and falling into water was lethal.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things they're known for as well is the fact that longboats and the fact that obviously the shouting, etc., when they were rowing, it was quite a haunting sound for them coming downstream, because it was both silent and obviously the howls of them shouting and rowing and things like that was quite a haunting thing to come down, especially when they mentioned it anyway, and some of the kind of texture that we've heard from English monasteries and things like that about hearing these ships come downstream. And I think Lindisfarne was one of the great examples. I think there's been quite a few kind of, should we say, ghost stories of hearing a Viking ship on night times, but never being able to see one, just hear them rowing into the island.
I mean, that was scary enough for them to abandon the place, to go in hiding, and because they had all heard the rumors about the Vikings, and then when they finally saw the ship, they were like, nope, we are not standing around here fighting with those guys.
Nope. Like you say, especially because it was monasteries. It wasn't like it was nothing there. It was just to the Vikings, it was like, oh, look at all this loot. Look at all these shiny gold and all these golden things. We'll take it all.
Yeah.
And then obviously they went further inland, etc. Obviously there's two of you on here kind of not collaborating, but two of you working very hard on Nordic games, or worked hard on Nordic games. Joe, you'll know very well, of course, we know you're working very hard to get Song of Iron out to us sooner rather than later.
That's the goal, yeah.
How's things going on your Nordic adventure so far?
It's going really good. I sort of took a step back from pushing the game forward and focused on cleaning up what I had for the last couple of weeks, and it's done a ton. I had a few people like the audio team and the composer playing it a bit, and that was really nice to get kind of that feedback. So I was able to refine a bunch of stuff. Getting the music and real sound in the game has been amazing. Hopefully I'll start sharing that stuff soon, but having their work in there versus a bunch of just my placeholder stuff is it's a massive difference. It's awesome. It's super exciting. But yeah, and then I've been working on getting it on all the platforms way ahead of time, so I can just test it on the box and on Steam and all that stuff. And that's real fun. I was like down in my living room playing it through the Steam system on my Xbox controller, and that was like a really, like, sitting on my couch. So that was like a really great moment for me. I thought that was really fun.
Being able to physically play it on.
Yeah, to click install, through Steam was great, and have it launch up, and that's awesome. Milestone for sure.
What kind of position are you in the game now? Then is the game itself as a whole, is it complete? It just needs kind of adding certain things into it, or
a mix. Like the first quarter of it or so is pretty far along. You could play it pretty well and feel it. There's white box stuff around still, but it gets less and less detailed as you go further along. But it's all about making sure the core stuff's good, and I can do that in the first couple levels. And so the last bit's pretty easy once I start flowing. But I kind of do passes through the whole game off and on to keep that stuff moving. But like Magnus said, really good at the first 5 minutes of the game. I really, I've played that thousands of times by now, but just making sure it's all working.
And it's all down to kind of adding, obviously, scenery, background, kind of additional elements in there. And is that really what you're going through now, and getting that scenery painted in and touched? The first few levels are now are almost completely done as far as like art's concerned, or they're really far along, and they've been a great test bed to make sure that all the streaming level stuff's working, and you can play seamlessly through levels and everything, and just adding the final systems for the character or the player themselves, and then adding more and more enemies to fight, and then arting up the different
kind of biome areas, cave, mountain, snow, so on. But it's coming along. I'm feeling really good about it. I go through phases of like, I don't know if anybody's gonna like this, and then like, maybe, maybe they'll like it.
You'd be surprised. There's a lot of hype still just surrounding that game, and I think everyone just can't wait to see more of it kind of coming together, but also learning as to when it is they can get their hands on it. I think that's the only thing.
Well, that's the next big one. Yeah. That'll make it more real when there's a date. But I'm working on a ton of stuff right now that I can't share, which is annoying because I really like to share stuff when it's happening. And then when other stuff gets involved, it becomes harder to stay true to that. But stay tuned because there's cool stuff coming. I hate to say it, but yeah, it's it'll be really cool. I think people will be excited. So,
I mean, it's always great to follow you on Twitter because you can really see the progress more or less every week or every other week. You can really, if you watch that, you can see the progress. And to be honest, I haven't experienced a game development process like that before. Yeah, from a fan perspective, seeing all these upgrades, and you can really just see by the clips or shots you post that the progress is made, and I can't wait to see the final product.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's fun really to share stuff. Yeah, thank you. Then I showed the armor stuff. I think it was since the last time I was here, and then I was asking Dutch if I was like, am I on target at all here? And he's like, yeah, I like it. So that was like good because you want to stay. We've talked about it already. Just wanting to stay as true as you can to the culture's stuff and all that. And there's going to be liberties, but as long as the kind of the heart of it is on point, I feel good about it.
100%. One of the things I did like that come after they obviously showed off the armor was I think it was afterwards anyway. It was the lightning arrows and of course the flaming axe and everything.
Yeah.
Like that. It was the
totally historically accurate.
Yeah, exactly what happened.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Arrows.
Yeah, that stuff. And I just showed up some water tech that I've been putting in, which I think will help a ton. Just because, Assassin's Creed's dealing with water a ton also, and it's a huge part of the mythology and the world up there. So it's got to be intricate, I think, as part of a thing. So. Yeah, all this stuff's exciting. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. I mean, what like you mentioned, you were obviously going into making the armor a little bit more detailed, etc. And it was you have kind of put a lot of more of the Nordic runes and patterns on there. You've got the figureheads, obviously from the front of longboats, etc. on the front of the armor. Yeah. So like I said, you like, is that right? Is that good? That's pretty accurate. It's cool. It's a lot of great detail going into the armor, and again, the thing is, of course, we know kind of a lot of the armor anyway back then wasn't that detailed.
It's flashier. It's much flashier. Yeah,
but of course, when we're talking about what you would put on the armor, if you were to embellish it, it would be the same. Like obviously the same in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. If you were to stick with original clothing, it wouldn't be good to look at. I mean, it would probably look great if there was a load of stitching and things like that. You go, "Ooh, look how detailed that stitching is." Yeah. But I mean, it's
really good cloth tech and stuff. Yeah. So, and the armor's supposed to be kind of like God armor anyway. So I guess I can push it a little further. Forgive me if I'm offended now.
To be fair though, that goes well into kind of a question there. So the main character is he meant to be just an average Norse warrior, or is he of kind of God descendant? Or
so one of the main sort of shifts I've taken from the mythology is Valhalla for my world is something you're invited to before you die. So say some great battle happens, you do some noble thing or are just really good in the fight. The gods will come down and go, "You did amazing. Why don't you come to Valhalla with us?" Right. So it's sort of like it's an honor thing. Like it happens before you die. Your character, the character you play, said, "No, I'm going to stay." which is totally kind of like counter to the Great Warrior thing, right? It totally goes against all of that concept. And so you are an amazing warrior. You were good enough to be invited to Valhalla, right? After being, that, and but you decided to stay, and that sort of is the change, right? And you wanted to stay because of loved ones. You didn't want to leave them. You thought that was more important. So that's sort of like right up to the beginning of the game, give or take. That's happened. We'll see how far I even get into that, but that's the story that's in my head. That's like the core thing that kind of drives a lot of it. And that's sort of the weird difference. So you are just a person, but you are, one of the best. And because you said no, you're theoretically the best warrior that's still around, because anyone at your level or higher has been already taken to Valhalla. So
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's. I'm looking forward to see more of the actual story of the game as well. That's the one thing that we've seen a lot of the action, a lot of the kind of battle around it. I'm really intrigued to see what's happening with the story. Have you got kind of an overarching story that's all now mapped out and ready to go?
Yeah, I'm not telling anything about it really. I mean, as far as in the game, because it's a short experience and because it's riddled with ability for me to ruin it for people. So, but it's totally mapped out. I think it's going to be. I think people will like it. I hope they will. It's a little different, and I'm really excited for people to get their hands on it and go through that moment, because I think there's something cool there. But yeah,
awesome. I can't wait to play it. I know a lot of people can't either. The story itself, have you got any kind of voice acting going on in the game as well, or is that not something that you've included? Is it more text based? Or
the actual dialogue, and there's only going to be a little bit, is going to be text based, but I'll probably record VO that will be a broken fake-ish language, and then I'll that just for simplicity, because of me being on my own, kind of translating that and then doing that in 18 languages or whatever. It'd be so much easier to do on text. So I probably will try to get people that can speak maybe an old-ish Nordic kind of, even if it's faked a little bit, to kind of give the right feel, to be in the right sort of region and vibe, but they won't actually be speaking it. It's not the plan, at least, And then it'll be a little text. But I think I have 3 places where people talk to you for any meaningfulness, other than, then there's battle cry and stuff like that. But the intent is to tell as much of it as I can through the environment, through your own actions, and just sort of say, kind of, here's the setup, go for it. Here's a little extra, and then here's the kind of final bit. This is sort of the plan.
I was going to say that, so the story's more told through the environment and your actions as opposed to dialogue. So exactly. I think from the very beginning, it's a pretty. I mean, there's only so many real stories left to be told, right? And I can kind of give you the right idea. Go, okay, this is happening. You're going to go try to change that thing by doing this, and you know the main strokes, and so you don't need me to constantly remind you through people telling you what to do next. It's just you should be able to do it by yourself. Yeah. Awesome. I'm looking to be fair. Go on.
I was gonna say, if you need a female voice, my wife speaks Scottish Gaelic.
Ooh, awesome! That's good to know.
See if I can convince her.
That's good to know. Yeah, that's awesome. I won't forget that.
Little diary.
Female viewers, yeah. Awesome. Have you been? Both Magnus and Joe, I know you haven't had the time to play on anything yet. Have any of you been given the opportunity to play on any of the new systems that were released yesterday?
Yeah, I have played on the PlayStation. I don't know on the Xbox. I have played it, but work related.
Yeah. Is that more of a testing rig than a retail rig?
It wasn't retail, but it was only for others to try. That was the reason I played all those intros 5 million times.
Yeah. That's fair enough, then. That's fair enough. And what do you make of these systems so far, then, from what you've had an opportunity to play?
they're fast. Really, really fast.
Yeah,
really fast. Yeah, that's what we've noticed as well. One thing I've noticed, of course, in the games, especially the ones you've put out there, is it is not only is it fast, of course, it feels great. So much better than what we're used to anyway. So at the moment, especially on obviously a controller, mouse and keyboard's been a bit different for years anyway. It's miles miles ahead on the FPS counter than console has been, but on controller it's so much smoother as the gameplay, but also we're seeing a lot more graphically, of course, it's a lot more polished, should we say, than it has been in recent years. And we've seen that with the additions of new features such as ray tracing in both Watch Dogs Legions and in, I think, partially, potentially in Valhalla. There is ray tracing elements in Valhalla as well, isn't there?
In Valhalla, yes. As far as I remember, there are, yeah. But there were one of the games that did not have it. Right now, I'm been focusing on some other things, so I can't really recall all the details. But I know there were at least in one of the games.
Yeah, I know. Obviously, Legions was very much that was. I think it's the first example that they pointed out as well on how ray tracing worked on Xbox was Legions, and that's obviously it looks beautiful. It's a great example of what can be done on console, especially these new consoles. Joe, have you had an opportunity to look at or play any of them yet, or had the opportunity given to you maybe in the coming weeks?
Yeah, I've messed around with them a little bit. Nothing, just a couple chunks of 10 minutes or so. And I mean, basically what Magnus is saying, and you guys have said already, just the speed of them is awesome. And I've got a huge PC rig built for gaming and all that stuff, and it's super fast too. But you can tell there's a difference when all this thing is trying to do is this one thing, and how efficient that is and how fast it is. And it's super exciting. Yeah, I mean, I've got my control for it right here. I got a white one. Well, I've got both of them, but so it's exciting. And I really am excited to take a break from working on Song of Iron to just spend some time with these things. Hover see if I can get my ping pongs hovering over the tower, like I was seeing yesterday all over the place. That was like, this is what you do with the Xbox now, I guess. So yeah, so I got to do that. But yeah, it's not a ton of experience yet, but it's feeling really good. It's super exciting. I mean, the generation before is what, 8 years old or something, 7 years. It's such a difference. It's amazing.
It is. It's a massive jump. You mentioned there that you do have the Series S as well. I've been hearing quite a few surprised people at just how well that performs. I mean, again, with the little bit of time you've had with it.
I think a lot of the specs that they've come out with is that it's the same system. It's just not like the difference is like the native 4K isn't there, right? And then there's just a few things that like make it the difference. But to people who don't have a 4K OLED TV, like they don't need the X if the S is there, because a lot of the architecture and the power is the same. It's just a few little things they changed to be more consumer friendly, I think. So it's an amazing machine. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously, Pat unfortunately hasn't had the opportunity to jump into next gen as yet, but he will be. I mean, once he's sold his e-bike that he won.
Oh yeah. I cannot wait to get the bike and to get it as soon as possible out. So I can buy the Series X. Yeah. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that day. And as you already asked a few podcasts ago, Valhalla is the first game I'm gonna play on the Series X for sure. So no. I need to spend some time on different games. Like I'm spending some time on Assassin's Creed Odyssey at the moment, and Unravel 2 just started with. So yeah, man, looking forward to other games.
Sweet.
Yeah, that's what I've kind of done with Apex. I've just realised I play that too much and I'm missing out on loads of games. So I've kind of put that on the back burner for now.
Yeah, exactly. Got to say.
I'm quite the opposite. I'm ADHD when it comes to games. I'm like, I play something for about an hour or so, and I'm like, next. I'm like really enjoying the game, but I'm like, I need to play something else. It's just one of them things I can't concentrate for too long.
Normally, I also do that. Like, if I play for an hour and a half, I'm like, okay, what's next? Start the next game, and just do that all day long. If I sometimes on weekends, I just all day I'm playing different kind of games. Like over and over again. Yeah. It's so hard to choose to what to play.
It is, and sometimes you got to find you've got to be in the right mood as well and right mind to play certain things. Like you'll chuck something on thinking, right, okay, this is like a puzzle game that's nice and relaxing, and then you realize about 15 minutes into it, you're like, I don't think I want to solve puzzles today. I think I want to just go and like race, and then you get into a racing game, you're like, no, I don't think I want to do that either. I think I want to hack and slash something. And then it kind of goes around in this circle until you kind of eventually settle on something that you kind of want to play. But yeah, I mean, we'll go through and kind of ask everyone's opinions. Of course, everyone just getting the new consoles yesterday or today, as it were, with Shom living in the middle of nowhere up in the Scottish Highlands.
It's the downfall. It's UPS. They're not very good. I mean, Hermes is better than UPS up here.
Yeah. So, but your limited playtime you've had so far with your Series X today, since it's only come several hours ago, how have you found it?
Yeah, but by the time I finished work and then did the setup and then started downloading everything, I think Valhalla was really the only game I properly played. Like while I was waiting, I was playing things like Odyssey.
Yeah.
Well, everything, because I transferred that first so I could play it and then everything else. But like I said at the beginning, just the snappiness of everything. I had a quick look at Destiny 2 and pressing start and getting into your equipment is pretty much near instant, whereas before you'd be waiting a good 10 seconds sometimes for the menus to properly load up. And so it's not just jumping between game and things like that. It's actually menus within games loading a hell of a lot quicker.
Yeah. 100%. Well, one of the things that, again, you'll have noticed on the Assassin's Creeds is going for that very short animus period, which is only about 3 seconds long now.
Yeah.
Sort of like half a minute to a minute. You take about 4 steps forward and then it's loaded in the next section. You're like, okay, that's not long enough. Normally,
that's something I need to try.
Used to just go okay. Oh, never mind. Put that down. But yeah, I haven't tried fast traveling either yet, but I've heard that is really quick.
Let me try it now.
Same on The Witcher. I think I've seen on The Witcher 3 it was almost instantaneous.
Yeah, it was a weird one. I'm in Odyssey now, so let's go.
On The Witcher, it's actually quite weird because the game is designed in a way to bring up the loading screen with an animation or something, and it loads actually quicker than this animation is, and so it looks like you have a little stutter or bug or something going on.
So it actually loads too quick.
Yeah, it loads too quick. Yeah.
Archimedes, how have you found it? I know you put out a video not long ago, kind of talking about your kind of overall impressions and things so far. But what do you think so far of the system? Obviously, with the time with it since yesterday. Thankfully, since yesterday, because it was meant to arrive today after a delay, and then turned up yesterday anyway.
Yeah. I was really lucky about with that. I've spent a lot of time ever since I had it with it. That's like I said in the beginning, why I took 2 days off work, because I really want to play around with it. And my first impression was a couple of things. Of course, it's fast, it's snappy, it's also very quiet. I haven't heard it so far. Even though I was playing Valhalla or Watch Dogs with ray tracing and everything, I just can't hear the system. It's super quiet. I'm also really surprised about the controller. Everybody was saying, well, it's the same controller. I think there are quite a few improvements to it. The D-pad is really snappy. It feels great, even better than on my Elite controller, to be honest. I love the grip and on the backside, and the share button is probably my most used button now.
Yeah, the share button is beautiful. I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's especially now you've it's like on games like Odyssey, the share button comes in so handy because quickly.
Yeah. But with the share button, like on the One X, you have like you press the Xbox button, then you can do Y for a screenshot or X for video. Yeah. How does it work now with the Series X? Because you press it and then.
Yeah, the press is just a screenshot, and if you hold it down, it will record the video.
Oh, okay. That's really nice.
Yeah, it works great. My only complaint about that whole function is so far a little bug with recording videos. If you record the videos in SDR, which you basically have to do, unless you record in 4K HDR, but 1080p is not possible. You have to record in SDR, and then the colors are super dark. Everything is very, very dark. You basically can't use those clips for anything. I had to increase the brightness 200% to even see anything on my screen. It's really strange. I hope they fix that very soon, especially speaking now as a content creator. Yeah, you want to use those clips you record. It works super fine for screenshots, but if you want to record a video, this is really weird. But that's my only complaint. Everything else about the system is just amazing. It loads super fast. Also the store and everything. It's just so instantaneous. And then I noticed something, especially when I played Watch Dogs Legions, because I have played, 25, 30 hours of that game on my One X already. Yeah. And then I moved over to the Series X, and the game still runs in 30 FPS. They didn't increase the frame rates, but it still felt so much more responsive and fluent and everything. And I also noticed that in my 10 minutes I played Doom Eternal, or that it just, even though you have the same frame rates like on the One or One X, it just feels more responsive, and you can really feel that low latency that they have been advertising. It really was apparent to me in Watch Dogs Legions, just because I have played it so much. It just feels so much better, even though the frame rates aren't increased. Yeah, and then you move over, of course, to Valhalla, playing such a huge open world game in 60 FPS. It feels incredible. We haven't had that on consoles, such huge open world games with that frame rates. And even if you played it on PC, you probably didn't get it at the same resolution and level of detail, unless you have a super duper master rig. But otherwise, this is just new, and it feels incredible. And I think this is the most important thing about this whole console. Much of it is really hard to tell people or show people in a video. You really have to feel it, the responsiveness. Also the way when you play Valhalla and you fast travel and it's actually fast, or you die and you're back in the game, and stuff like that. This is just a feeling you have. It just all feels good to play, and I'm super happy with the system.
Sweet. Clowns, how have you found it so far?
I gotta say that the Series X has blown my mind. I mean, I don't have the fancy TVs that you guys might have or the gaming monitors. Mine's a 1080p monitor, which I need to upgrade. I know I do for Series X, but with that being said, though, the load time is so much faster, and I'm just like loading into games super quick. I'm not having frame rate issues. I'm not stuttering. I'm not having these like weird bugs if I hit something. Like the other day before I had my Series X, I was actually playing Watch Dogs Legion, and I hit like an object, and then I went in circles, and the whole map kept flashing. And I think it was because the One X couldn't keep up with the frame rate or something was going on. But with the Series X, I'm having like none of those issues. everything just works perfect. And Magnus, I'm addicted to Ubisoft games. Like, you guys are my favorite developers, so I'm stuck in Watch Dogs Legion right now, and the Series X makes that game so buttery smooth. Like, I'm just walking down the street, and I'm just like, every person I'm checking out, seeing what they are, who they are. I'm just loving it, man. Like, I have no issues with the Series X. I kept my unit on probably for about maybe 15 hours. I played a little bit of Tetris Effect last night with Phil, and I put my hand over the Series X, and there was like all those rumors about the heat. I don't even feel that on the Series X, even when I'm playing resource-intensive games. Like, mine is running fine. It's cooler than my One X. So the menus are super fast. I know that they're in 1080p, but I scroll down and they load instantly. Like, the pictures don't take any time to load. They're just right there, where my One X like took forever. And even though I'm still using some of my USB drives that are hooked up to the One X, the 3.0 drives, they still load a little bit faster even with those versus the One X. So I mean, there's significant improvement there. Even if you're running, like me, a 1080p monitor, and you're ashamed because you need to upgrade, it's still a significant boost to what you're used to.
Yeah, massive boost. Like you say, everyone just noticed the speed on everything. That literally every game and everything that we do on that system is just so much quicker.
Yeah, I think too, something that people don't always think about when they're thinking about the like 120 or 60 frame stuff. It's not just a visual like smoothness factor. It's the game systems are running that much faster and checking stuff that much faster. So you get better collision detection, you get better all of this sort of stuff, like background things that you don't like see happening in the game, and that stuff's going to make games just better. You can have less bugs because of it, or less of the freak out bugs, all that kind of stuff. It's going to do a lot for games. It's awesome.
What do you think that extra power is going to do for your development then, Joe?
I mean, I'm going to do frame rate. I've got a bit of physics stuff going on. I'm hopefully going to hit 60 at 4K on the Series X as my goal. Awesome. We'll see how far along I get, but it should be possible, so I'm excited about it. I'm level streaming everything, so there's no load times. Well, there should be no loads or anything throughout the entire game. So it's going to be very helped by the new system. It'll make my life easier, but hopefully I can manage that on the Series One or the X. Oh my gosh, the Xbox One kind of group also, but it'll be much more difficult, right? But so I won't take advantage too much of all the new gadgets, but the power just makes it easier for me and will allow me to kind of do that stuff. I have a lot of 4K textures and really high resolution stuff, and it's gonna hopefully smash through all that stuff real nice. So yeah.
I mean, that's the good thing about these is obviously if push comes to shove, and I know obviously you want people to have the best experience that they can across all systems, but that's the beauty of having these optimized patches.
Yeah.
Push comes to shove, if you think we can probably get it to 4K 60 on the One X, probably not on the One. Obviously, definitely not on the One because it won't be in 4K on the One.
Yeah.
But you could probably, exactly. You could probably get that down to maybe 1080 30 or 4K 30 or something on the previous systems, but then have the optimized version for the new systems is 4K 60 and have that ability to have that. Would you choose to do that if push comes to shove, just to make sure the game was smooth on both?
Yeah, I mean, it should be pretty simple to just, to check what system you're running and then have it scale up or scale down. But yeah, I guess it's a good question if like what people would want. I think 60 at 4 or 30 at 4K would be better than 60 at 1080 for Song of Iron. I think it's pretty and it's not too twitchy, so I'm not super worried about the frame rate. But maybe if I can give the people the option too, I totally will. They can pick for themselves. But,
definitely,
yeah,
that would be awesome if you did have those choices within it.
Yeah.
I know it's being developed on for Steam and for Xbox. Is there anything that you're going to kind of translate from PC version settings-wise onto Xbox?
If the more I can, the better. That's an experiment that I'm sort of halfway through right now, because I just got the ability to set all the PC settings, resolution, controllers, and remapping them and stuff, which was a different challenge than I'm used to. But yeah, I mean, right now it's full support, PC support, and remapping and controller and all that stuff. So the more settings I can give Xbox people to mess with, I'm super happy to do that for them.
Yeah. That'd be awesome. Yeah. That'd be absolutely awesome. And we'll obviously talk about any other kind of things that have took you by surprise, other than just the speed. Is there any specific games that have really jumped out at people initially? Obviously, we know we can lord over Magnus and his tremendous Ubisoft titles that have come out the last week and obviously yesterday. And congratulations, of course, again on the launch of Valhalla yesterday. And Watch Dogs Legions, obviously 5 days prior. Was it 5 days prior? Or was it a little bit longer than that now? Doesn't feel that long.
29th.
3. Oh, God, it feels this week.
I was thinking now, I've been playing that game for almost 2 weeks now, so yeah.
I haven't started it yet, but I'm really excited because it's another indie idea to Xbox game is the Falconeer, and that's I think he's got that clock in some insane frame rate at some I think he's downscaling it kind of like Blind Forest is doing, or he's doing something where he's like they don't have the numbers that match what my game is running at right now. So I'm super excited to dive into that, and I have a lot to learn from him probably. Yeah, same. It's sitting. It's just waiting for me to click play.
That and Bright Memory is also
one
I downloaded but haven't started yet.
Yeah. I've had a chance to 3 games because they're the 3 kind of main ones that launched, should we say, with the Series X. Outside of Tactics, which I've already played that on PC, so I knew what to expect. So just playing that on Xbox would be picking up from where I've left off, so it wasn't much of a reason to jump on that initially. But the first game I played was Bright Memory, and I found specifically, and that's where I brought up the options. And obviously, like a few people mentioned this in chat. The options on Bright Memory on Xbox were pretty much just cut and paste from PC. They've got anti-stropic filtering in there anytime from 4, 8, 16, and you can choose between them all. I don't think a normal gamer that outside of PC is going to know what that option is or means or does. But it is in there, which is nice to see. And I think they've got VRR options in there as well to prevent kind of screen tearing. Everything is really copy and paste from PC. So that was, again, I didn't expect to see that when I put the menu open on that game. But there was screen tearing initially when you haven't got the refresh rate option selected within the settings, and there was really bad screen tearing, but he has been picked up on that, so I think he's patching it. But as soon as you put that on, works fine, brilliant, across the board. I was like, oh, awesome. But like you mentioned, though, indie game Falconeer, that is so responsive, that game. It was the second game I jumped into.
Awesome.
That game is quick. Like really quick and responsive on the controls. But no, I can't wait to dive into that and going into it as well. You've got like your kind of starter missions where you kind of practice and learn what to do and learn how the world goes. But then in each level that you go into there, you have contracts you can choose from. So you can say, I want to go and do this contract, and that's kind of going to search this guy and hunt him down, or this one over here to protect a convoy, or over this to do something else. So it's quite intriguing. And again, it's a different, artistically, he didn't want everything to be ultra realistic. It was his artistic interpretation of that game. So again, artistically, it's entirely different again. But beautiful game, very responsive, very quick. I'm looking forward to playing that a bit more, seeing what it's about. Obviously, you love your indie games as well. That's the one thing you build up on.
Yeah, I'm looking up to him to see how he manages his way through all this, because I'll be following in his footsteps for the most part. So I hope. I mean, geez, he's doing great. So
was going to say Thomas is quite an easy guy to speak to. You probably easily jump my DM and just right.
That's I definitely plan on doing that once things calm down for him a little bit.
He's
picking a brain.
100%. You say his frame rate stuff's off the charts at the minute.
It's amazing. He's got no textures in the game. It's crazy.
It's well above where people.
Uh-oh. Did we just lose Dutch, or did I just fall off?
No.
We lost Dutch.
We lost Dutch.
Oh, there he is. He's
back.
back.
There he is.
Never mind. Back in. But yes, I'm going to Archimedes and Joe as well. Both, unfortunately, do need to bounce at this moment in time. But thank you very much, guys, for stopping by. If Joe, first of all, if you can let everybody know what you've got coming on, if you've got any more developer diaries, should we say, coming up shortly. Where people can find you.
The best place is Twitter at Song of Iron to follow me. It's where most of my updates go, that sort of stuff. Wishlist on Steam, Song of Iron, and stay tuned because I got a bunch of stuff I'm holding on to that I have to. I'm sorry, but it's coming soon. I'm gonna announcements are coming, so stay tuned.
Nice.
Happy days. Awesome stuff. Fingers crossed for you that you'll get a minute to sit down, relax, and play on the consoles for a bit.
Get in there.
even if you manage to relax with a coffee and have a good hour.
Yeah, right. Yep. that sounds wonderful.
And Archimedes, brother, if you can just let people know what you've got coming up. I know you've just released a video today. Is there any more on the horizon? And where
there always is.
Can find you?
There always is. Yeah, just released earlier a video, like you said. It's not a console review in the classical way. I try to put a different angle to that console launch because we have a lot of console reviews out there. No need for another one. So I try to look at the big three launch titles, in my opinion, Valhalla, Watch Dogs, and Gears Tactics, and just see what makes this a next-gen experience. Definitely check that video out. And otherwise, you can find me basically everywhere at Boxenberger, Twitter, Xbox Live, PlayStation Network, and of course here on YouTube.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, guys, for stopping by. We'll let you drop out now and crack on with your days or go and rest, whatever it is you have to do. For Joe, it's just work.
Yeah, right.
No, my wife has her night shift, and our son is a little sick, so I gotta take care of him now.
Fair enough.
Well, good luck.
Thank you. Good luck for that.
Thanks for having me again, Dutch. I appreciate it. Everybody.
Anytime, brother. Anytime.
Later,
Joe. For stopping by.
See you, Joe.
Take it easy, everybody.
See you later, Joe.
Bye.
See ya.
And then there were 5. So,
yep.
We will dive into the world of Watch Dogs Legions now. No, I know, Magnus, you mentioned this one was, of course, if I was to make you choose between either Watch Dogs or Assassin's Creed Valhalla, it was like choosing between two sons, which is... But you mentioned, of course, Watch Dogs was primarily for you, probably one of your favorite ones. Now, obviously, that game is... We can see, of course, the two of us here that live in the UK. We can see the quite a lot of detail, and I think it's more detail than we've ever seen in, should we say, accurately for locations in Watch Dogs Legions. And the texture work as well is absolutely phenomenal as well on certain aspects. Is that something that's kind of stood out to you as one of the reasons, of course, why as well, the kind of the scenery and the reproduction of London as we know it?
Yeah, of course. I mean, especially for me, London is one of my favorite cities to be in, and to actually go there in a game. We have done that before in Syndicate, but that was a few years before I ever came to London. So, I mean, Watch Dogs actually takes me to places where I recently visited, even though there are some modifications with a futuristic touch to it. But still, I mean, when you can just spend hours just walking around, looking on the environments, on the details. On I've been there, I've been drunk there, I've been eating food over there. I mean, you can easily recognize. I mean, it's even more for those who actually live in London. But for me, I've been mostly in London for work, but I recognize so many details and so many places there, which makes me like the game even more. But the real reason I like the game is I love the first Watch Dogs because of the hacking. I just love that type of undercover work in the shadows. We're going back to Assassin's Creed again here, but you see the similarities here. Work as an underdog kind of thing here to from the shadows, even though you don't use the hidden blade as often here, you use your hacking skills instead. But then you have the co-op, which is I'm a huge fan of co-op, and we're going to see the co-op coming here in December to this game, which I'm really looking forward to. I'm not a PvP player because I literally can't hit anything. So that's why co-op is way better. I have some really, really good friends in the US that I play with as often as I can when I have time. And they are used to me being crappy when it comes to the aim, but I'm good at other things. That's why co-op is the best thing for me.
Yeah. No, to be fair, we spent a lot of time in co-op as well. One of the things as well, I suppose, is different specifically for this game is the fact, obviously, the name of it itself, Legion, and the premise being that you aren't one lead character, you are any character. How is that in especially works out mechanically to yourself? How is that kind of another thing that you look forward to? Is it the fact that you're not a lead character? You are what is an infinite amount of lead characters?
Well, there are two perspectives. There is the one for me personally as a player, and then we have the other side of it as a developer. As a developer, the hard one was how do you market this? How do you get people to understand the concept of it?
Yeah.
And that was the tricky part. And it was even worse now when we don't have physical events where people can come to E3, they can come to Gamescom or the ones we have in the UK where people can actually get their hands on and try the game.
Yeah.
So how do you get people to understand the concept of the game with a tagline "Play as anyone"? It was super hard. So that was one of the words we had. But then on the other side, we have the main story of the game, which is a combination of the first two games. The first game were extremely dark. And the next game, Watch Dogs 2, were more of a colorful, happy, more almost hippie collective of people working together. And this game is sort of a mix of both. You have a really, really dark story. It's actually almost darker. I don't know how far you have played the game, but the story is like a real thriller. It's horrifying. But you still have a lot of funny elements in the game. You just can hear... for me, a funny thing is when you hear any Englishman say a curse word. That's just hilarious. When you're used to you are so Americanized. You're used to those curses they use over there. But then you have cunt all of a sudden. I went, oh yeah, that's exotic.
Yes. When they start
no one says that as well as an
words.
English person.
No. I mean, they can say the worst words and still look like a gentleman, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it just flows off the tongue so much easier.
Yeah, it does.
It's that English accent.
It is. They can look at you and stand there and look like You a bloody cocksucker. But you still get it like, oh, did he actually insult me, or did he meant something else, or what did he mean? But I love that feeling, and I've been to London so many times, so it's so diverse. There are so many dialects in one city, and I really when I take my hat off for the team who have brought all those voices, all those dialects, all those languages into the game. They did a really good work with that.
Yeah, I'm really surprised actually for the football hooligan which you showed off. You didn't get Vinnie Jones in to do that.
That would have been fun,
wasn't it? He's the prime example of how to swear.
Oh yes, yes. You get your extra powers from getting drunk.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that's Vinnie Jones down to a T. I was very surprised actually. It reminded us as soon as I seen the football hooligan, I thought that's just Vinnie Jones. That's what they brought into it.
But no, it's Dyer.
Yeah, or Danny Dyer. That's the one. The geezer.
The geezer. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Shom, I think have you been playing the game quite a bit as well? Watch Dogs Legion?
I don't have the game, unfortunately.
Not yet.
No, I just
what?
Me neither. I also doesn't have the game, so he's not. Shom's not the only one.
Unfortunately, went into my Xbox, so
the Xbox
and been able to play
Valhalla.
Assassin's Creed. Yeah, so I'd love to play it, but unfortunately, I'm not. I really enjoyed the first one. I wasn't so hooked on the second one. I still enjoyed it. I still maxed out the game score on the second one, but I preferred the story of Aiden than I did the other character. Maybe it was a bit too hipstery for me. I don't know. But I was quite happy to see that Aiden does make an appearance in the new one.
Yep.
So when I do get a bit of spare cash, then that's something I will definitely look at picking up.
Jump into. To be fair, I've seen a lot of praise for it, and obviously Archimedes, who's just went, he absolutely loves the game. He couldn't put that thing down, which is. I think it's only going to be worse when he starts getting into Valhalla a bit more, because it'll just be the same thing. He'll just be like, "Oh no,
yeah,
stuck in this forever." But Clowns, you've played Watch Dogs Legions quite a bit. So what's your overarching thoughts on that so far, then?
Well, in general, I'm a big fan of Ubisoft games. I like the open world feel to them. And Watch Dogs 1, I will have to say, I love that one. Just like Shom mentioned over there. Aiden seemed like a more interesting character because he was kind of like pulled into the story. You know, he didn't necessarily want to cooperate with everything going on. He was kind of like forced to, and once he was too deep in, he was in. And he had that real, to me, he reminded me of the hackers from the 1980s. Like, you know, those big groups back then. Trying to think of some of the names like Legion of Doom, LOD, Masters of Deception. He had that kind of mindset of those actual real hacking groups from those days. And it just, I don't know, man, it really, really, I just really felt it. I really felt alive with that one. And then the second one, I didn't really feel so much of that. I felt more, you know, like it was, I think like everybody's saying too hipster. It was just, I don't know. Everybody was more supportive. You know, it wasn't like it didn't seem as dark. And that's what I liked about the first one.
Yeah,
the third one, I'm loving this third one because it's kind of like suspenseful. And it really starts off suspenseful, almost like a movie. Like it's like almost like a realistic possibility that could happen. And movies have portrayed this kind of like intro that you get in Watch Dogs Legion. And then once you get sucked into the story, it's so cool how you can change your operatives. It's almost like when you recruit people, you know what their skills are just by hacking, like, I guess, their cell phone. It pulls up their profile and who they are and their kind of skills and abilities. And that just blows my mind the way that it's done in this one, and then you can like go deep profile, find out what they need help with, get them on your side. You know, the first thing I did on Watch Dogs Legion is I recruited everybody who hated DedSec the most. I went for like the Albion guys, I went for the police officers, I went for the Royal Guards, I went for like the lawyers, the politicians, the failed overseas operators with drones. Like, all those people are in my crew. Like, you know, I have them walking into places for me. So I just felt excited about that. And I think that Ubisoft really did this one really well, because at first it seemed kind of difficult in my mind how you could change operatives in the story and still be a main character. But it was just done so fluid and so well, almost like it's like a group mentality of infiltration to save the world, in a sense. Like, you have to have the right people in the right places to get the right kind of jobs done. And it's, you know, that kind of thinking goes back to like old school government and military thinking, like CIA, Black Ops. It's just really cool how all that is interacted into this game. And the teams that worked on this game, I want to congratulate them, because I truly love this game, Magnus. I think it is one of the greatest games that I've played so far. For me, this game is a 10 out of 10. I love it that much. It's so cool how they even put in the idea that, you know, that cars are going to be more futuristic with electronics, and how like they're automated and you could just hack cars. I mean, we've seen stories where Ford and Chevy put this kind of technology into the cars and they're already being hacked by cell phones. But in this game, it's like every car has these electronic abilities, and you could just make them go forward, backwards, left, right. And I sometimes, you know, I just sit there in the middle of the street causing traffic accidents, because it's so fun. Like, it blows my mind. This is great. And then the drone hacking on top of that, you can hack the cannons, like the spider cannons. Oh, this game is so great. Everybody needs to get this game, and everybody needs to play this game. If I could get a tattoo of this game, I would get one on my arm. I love this one so much. This is
tattoo.
Yeah, I need a DedSec tattoo or something, or start my own DedSec fan club. But yeah, Magnus, I love this one, man. Like, it's hats off to you guys. Pulled it off. Fantastic job. I'm sure it took a lot of work, and you know, another thing too is one of the biggest fears I think a lot of people had is that a lot of these characters would be like cut and paste, like, you know, construction workers would basically have all kind of like the same mentality and stuff. But that's not true. What I found, like, some construction workers fight better when they're drunk. Some don't drink at all. So I mean, like, that's cool too, is like that each one has different characteristics. There's people that gamble, and you recruit them and you start losing like your cryptocurrency, or you got shopaholics and you start losing, you know, some of your money into clothes. It's just, and celebrities, people recognize them. It's just so creative. It is. I mean, I can't wait to see the future of the Watch Dogs series. And you know, that's another thing. Make that a Netflix show or something, Magnus. Convince them, the higher ups at Ubisoft, that this is really that good. This is really that good, man. It really is. And everybody that's listening right now, if you haven't played Watch Dogs and you loved the first one and the second one you were iffy on, this third one, I'm telling you, man, you are gonna love it. It is that much fun.
I've heard nothing too dissimilar from what he's been saying there. I think everybody's kind of said the same thing. This Watch Dogs really does win back where a lot of people lost on the second one. I think a lot of people lost out on the second one and kind of was like, is this third one going to be that good? And then the third one's come out and it's just been phenomenal praise kind of across the board. So it is a massive congratulations, Magnus, to you and your team.
I'll make sure to pass it on to the team because, they deserve to hear it.
No, definitely. And obviously, mentioning that though, I mean, could you kind of briefly explain what it is that your job there as Nordic Communications Manager for Ubisoft Nordic is, and kind of what your day-to-day job entails working there and helping out the team?
Well, my job has changed a lot over the years. I started with community management, more or less, where I handled all our social media channels. I had to start some channels from scratch and work them up. Our Twitter channel, for example, the Ubisoft Nordic Twitter is something I started, and our Ubisoft Nordic Instagram was something I started years ago.
Yeah.
So those were my babies back in the days. But I've been a community person for more than 20 years, having gaming forums and gaming discussion boards and stuff. So I'm kind of addicted to social media in all types of styles. But then I started working with influencers as well, inviting them to try the games, to go to events like E3 and Gamescom. And the recent years, I went from community manager to communication manager, which also includes the PR. So we are at the moment 2 people working with communication. Divided the games between us. So I had to drop the community part because I didn't have time to handle all the community work and all the social media stuff as well. But I'm still kind of stuck and always more or less drawn into it because with my 10 years or 20 years of experience and gotten to know the community really well in the 10 years I've been at Ubisoft. So I'm still a part of it, even though it's not on my things to do list, but I can't let it go. It's just the reality of it. But my actually work, the actually things I have to do is to send out review copies, to make sure the influencers get to know the game, to invite them to events when we don't have a worldwide plague going on. And well, that's more or less plan launch events, plan local capture events, plan community events, plan a lot of those stuff. That's more or less what I do.
Awesome. I mean, if there was an event, obviously, unfortunately, there hasn't been, but if there was a Viking event, I would have been first on the list to be wanting to go to that.
Yeah, we had a lot of plans. I mean, for Assassin's Creed, having huge launch events up in Norway, going on longboats and stuff, but that didn't happen. So in the end, we had one launch event for Assassin's Creed in Denmark, in one of the only places where you actually have rune stones still, called the Yelling Stone, which actually was the stone that states when Denmark became a kingdom and became later turned into a Christian nation. So there is a museum, a very interactive digital museum, where we had the launch event, and it was very Corona orientated. Only 10 people allowed in at the same time, masks on everywhere, keep your distance, but still you got that Viking touch. And we had like 10 Xbox Series X all over the museum. So you played the game, a Viking game, in the most Viking enriched environment ever. So I think that blew people away. And we had one of the actors from the game on the spot as well.
Oh, yes. Was it Marcus Brun?
Yeah, he was there as well. So I got to hang out with him for a day. And he's the most down-to-earth guy I have ever met.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be fair, I mean, that's one thing. I was going to try and get Magnus Brun on the same time as yourself as well. Obviously, it's trying to go through his talent agency to get him on was a little bit more long-winded than I thought. I don't even know whether or not his representative is at work at this moment in time, or whether or not they're working from home. So
they're actually UK based. So I mean, but since he's Danish and he really wanted to go himself, so I mean, Denmark is a small country, so he just showed up, and well, it was a success.
No, that's awesome. It's also great to know, of course, when you do get getting Danish and having Magnus Brun as Iva. Did you cast a Danish or Swedish for the female character?
She's Danish as well.
She's Danish as well.
Then we have a Norwegian actor who plays 2 roles in the game as well. And we have a lot of we have, like, in the background we can hear people talk Icelandic, because Icelandic is very closely related to the Norse, because I mean, as a language, the Icelandic is not been affected by other languages as much as the Danish, Norwegian, and the Swedish languages has. Because I mean, back like 1,000 years ago, we more or less talked the same language all around here, but the Icelandic were isolated, so they kept the old ways of talking.
Yeah. It was, like you say, it was all relatively the same language across the board over there for a number of years, quite a number of years. But as you say, in Europe now, it's become very much diluted. It's very much a mixture of many different nationalities and backgrounds. And as you mentioned, specifically in London and the UK, it's such a mixture of dialects from that many times that, I mean, we've been invaded.
Yeah, but just look at Newcastle. I mean, that's a perfect mixture of Gaelic, Norse, and English.
Yeah.
And I have no clue what people in Newcastle are saying, even though I've been there so many times. We have one of our studios and we have one huge community office over there as well. But I can't even order a taxi from the airport to our office because I just have to point on my phone. I want to go here. Oh, look at that.
He's all legioned up.
Yeah, he is. Love it.
He won the Legions pack there from Ubisoft in the Netherlands. They were doing a giveaway, so he got his Legions gift pack hamper thing from them.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But you're right.
I needed to show it.
I love it.
Yeah, man. I got some other stuff from the guys. So yeah, man. Maybe I didn't play the game, but I got some really amazing goodies from those guys from the Netherlands. So
I guess it was Ruud you talked to.
No, I'm not sure because the giveaway went through Xbox Netherlands. They actually got the package from Ubisoft. So
all right, well, I know the guys down there pretty well. There.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, cool, man.
When we seen that, I didn't expect them to bring out several pig head faces, but that was awesome.
Yeah.
Speaking of the pig heads, though, whose idea was it to superimpose the pig head on every Ubisoft title in every store?
Yeah, well, my guess it was that was somebody having fun down in the marketing department in Paris that thought that was a cool takeover, and it was. I mean, it looked fun.
Very good. To be fair, I'd seen it. Like I noticed it on my games before I seen it on social media. So I was like, "Wait a minute, what's going on with all my games? Why has everyone got a pig head and dressed in a suit? What's going on here? Especially like Ghost Recon. I did not expect to see that on Ghost Recon.
Oh yeah, it's pretty cool that they did that to the games.
Yeah, it was a small but funny marketing stunt just to create some awareness.
I don't even think it's reverted back to its normal display pictures yet. I think they're still the same.
No, Odyssey's still the same for me. Yeah, Odyssey's still the same.
Yeah, they're still hacked.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, are you involved in, as you mentioned, they're working now with influencers and things like that? Are you involved with kind of also helping with future DLC plans or expansions and things like that? Do you get involved in all of that?
Yeah, of course, we're always involved in the post-launch plan somehow, because we need to get people's reactions from it. We need to get their feedback on it, and that's usually part of what we call the preview plan, where we get them to try it out early and get their feedback, and do like a hot feedback report back to the team and to the studio to do that final fine tuning before we go live and see if there is any critical stuff that needs to be fixed or whatever. And that's also an important part of it.
Yeah, I mean, we've also seen specifically with Valhalla, we've seen the entire kind of, probably not all of it, but we've seen the vast majority of the roadmap of what's coming up for Valhalla, with Ireland, and obviously you've got the Berserker for those who pre-ordered. I would imagine, can anybody who hasn't pre-ordered then get the Berserker at some point? Is that part of the expansion pass?
Usually it's getting late now, and there's a lot of information in my head right now. But if I'm looking back at the previous games, it's been available for those with a season pass, and for those without a season pass, it's usually available at a later stage for where you can purchase it in the store. And some of them you can unlock with your Ubisoft Connect points or Uplay points, as it used to be called.
Yeah.
But I know they're working on the DLCs. They're recording the dialogue and finishing up some extra cool stuff coming up.
Yeah, it's looking awesome. Like I say, since the one thing that made me, because I've got the Ultimate Edition straight away for Valhalla, and I was thinking, no, I'll wait because it is quite a large game anyway. But then I seen the plans for the expansion for Valhalla and the different kind of, and the roadmap you've got going there, and I just thought, no, you know what it is, I'm just going to go straight for the Ultimate Edition because I know the content there is something I'm really interested in and I'm going to put a lot of time into. Is the roadmap as laid out so much on Watch Dogs Legions at the moment? I don't think I've seen it as kind of plain text, kind of this is what we've got coming up.
We did have a post-launch trailer for you guys, where you have some new story elements. You have some new characters coming up with Aiden Pierce. You have an assassin joining the club, and you have I can't remember the lot. There's a third character also coming up with a very specific ability that I can't even remember it.
Mind control.
A mind control. But there were some really, really twisted stuff coming up, and people were very, very excited about it, especially for Eden Pierce coming in here as a senior hacker kind of thing, and the Assassin's Creed crossover as well.
Yes.
Having an Assassin's Creed in a modern. I mean, we have seen the Assassin's Creed, the assassins in the modern storylines in the previous games as well, but it's always been those short moments. Now you're gonna have it for real, if you know what I mean. You're actually gonna play an assassin in London in a futuristic theme. So I'm really looking forward to see how people react to that.
Oh, most definitely. And obviously you've got, like you mentioned, you've got the 3 different DedSec missions that are coming with with that as well. Is there any obviously the online kind of co-op as well, if that is also coming up soon?
Yeah.
When is that releasing? Just for those
it's the beginning of December. I think it's the 3rd.
Awesome.
Coming up, and there's a lot of. I mean, the previous games had a co-op, which was quite limited to chasing down criminal hackers and just doing a traditional hack on someone then had to find you. But in this time around, it's more like the co-op part of Division, where you actually have to do some missions where you have to be working together, talking together to actually proceed in the mission you have. So they are the new missions and the new. They are more story driven. They are more really co-op driven, and you have a PvP part as well.
Yes,
where you fight with the spider bots and stuff.
Yeah, so you've got obviously the open world co-op, tactical ops, I think that'll be. I think you and Sean will probably get along quite well. You mentioned you're very into tactical. Are you a fan of Splinter Cell, etc. as well? Then.
Yeah, but that comes my Achilles heel. I'm not that good at stealth.
You love stealth games, but
yeah, I love stealth games, but I'm more guns blazing, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, if anyone who's played Far Cry with me, we always start. Oh, we're gonna take over this base very stealthy. Like 10 seconds in, it's me and my M60 just blazing lead all over the place. So I always try to be stealthy, but never works.
Yeah. No, I'm exactly the same. I'm in your boat entirely. I always start out trying to be stealthy, and then I might accidentally trigger someone, and I'm like, oh, forget it, and then just all guns blazing. That's it. But yeah, doesn't matter. That's just
the way it is.
Blow things up. Yeah, exactly. But I think we shall wrap it up for today. Thank you very much for everybody for coming along. And again, a huge congratulations, Magnus, for yourself and your team on the release of both Watch Dogs Legions and yesterday on Valhalla. And obviously the massive positive feedback around both of those games so far. Hats off to you and the team.
Cheers.
No problem. We will do the outros now. So first of all, we will do the outro for our guests. So Magnus, if you can let everybody know, of course, what they can look forward to coming up, should we say, from both titles soon, obviously if they haven't already detailed, or where they can even find the information for what can be coming up, and what you'll be doing and where you can be found.
Well, first of all, we're going to have a lot of stuff coming up for both games, as we have talked about. And we should not forget there is another game coming out in a few weeks called Immortals Phoenix Rising,
yes,
which is back to the Greek mythology. But it's a beautiful game, I must say. It's a bit more cartoonish, but still with a very living touch to it. So...
It looks very much like Zelda Breath of the Wild to me as well.
Yeah, but with a little bit more mature touch to it.
Yeah.
But other than that, for me locally, for Ubisoft news here in the Nordics, it's Ubisoft Nordic on Twitter, it's Ubisoft Nordic on Instagram, and the same on Facebook. And to find me, well, you can't miss me because I'm spamming everywhere. It's element_5 written in letters. It's my old gaming nick since way back. Inspired by old movie. I wonder if people know which one, but that's how you find me on every single social media platform out there.
Awesome. I think I know which movie you're talking about. Is it a sci-fi movie? Is that what it is?
Yeah, slightly sci-fi, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Brilliant. And next we have another guest, turned up slightly later than everybody else, but that's fine. We did know that. It was a very last-minute invitation anyway from myself. But Italian Clowns, brother, what are you up to, and what you got planned, and where can people find you?
Thanks, man. I hope I did a good job tonight asking Magnus the right questions and praising Watch Dogs for all the glory that it is and Valhalla. You guys can find me at Italian Clowns on all social media, Four Guys with Quarters as well. We actually got some more interviews coming up. I'm working on one with hopefully Microsoft. It's got to pass PR, but he wants to do it with us. I just got to wait for the PR approval. And we have Lucy coming on. She was an animator for Battletoads and about 8 other games. It's Joe from Song of Iron. He's supposed to come on as well.
Awesome.
We have White Paper Games coming on. We have a contact at the Bloober team now, so we're supposed to have them on.
Yep.
And you catch the last interview with Scott Millard from Feardemic Games, which is part of the Bloober team of companies. Yep. So that's what we've been up to. Just doing interviews lately, and it's so much fun finding out how this industry works, man. It really is.
Yeah, it is. That's the one thing that's very intriguing to me is just getting everybody's different perspectives. And like I say, of course, Magnus, when I got you on, I know there's a background of different kind of rules that you've had throughout the years anyway, and very interesting to hear your perspective on how things are done and where it's kind of the difficulties or should I say some of the drawbacks and pluses and minuses of especially during a pandemic of trying to work with that as well. So it's always very interesting to hear how things kind of play out for you guys. But no, Clowns, obviously it's awesome to see how many people you're getting on as well to kind of give fresh perspective on every aspect of kind of gaming development, whether it be from voice actors or developers or artists, studio heads, anybody. I mean, you even had ColecoVision on the other week, was it not?
Yeah, Tommy Tallarico, head of Intellivision. Yeah, he's doing the Miko remake. So yeah, that was pretty fun. He's a really cool dude, and he's down to earth, man. So if you ever want him to pop on, I can put the word in for you.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's very enthusiastic about his system, and you could tell the enthusiasm that shone out of him during that interview. It was an awesome interview. But no, that's brilliant. Patchy, where can people find you, brother? What you got coming up?
Well, people can find me on Twitter mostly, on the social media, of course. The name says it right here. So, yeah, man. I'll be mainly focusing on Assassin's Creed Odyssey for the coming weeks. So, and of course, PUBG, as you guys know. So,
yeah,
that's gonna be my. But Assassin's Creed Odyssey is gonna be my main games. Yeah.
Sweet. And Untangled, was it? Untangled 2?
Unraveled 2, yeah.
Unraveled, that's the one. No, there's an abundance of games. That's the thing. We're coming at this point of the year now where there's so many games releasing as well that it's hard to keep up with which ones and try and get around to playing so many games. Testing them out, and then people kind of advise you on, oh, you need to try this game out as well. You're like, okay, I'll try this game out, and then you get sidetracked. And so I'm focusing. I think I'm going to focus now solely on Valhalla, and I can't wait to jump into that a bit more. I've only had a couple of hours on it so far, and I just want to jump back onto it. So I'm looking forward to doing that. But next week we have, and I think you touched on it actually, Clowns. You mentioned you have Lucy on. We have Lucy on as well, along with AJ and another one.
Yes. That's awesome, man. They are so cool. Yeah. They're awesome.
We have the studio, Delilah Studios Battletoads on with AJ Scranton and Lucy, and he's also he's just confirmed there. So it's himself, AJ, Lucy, obviously lead character designer and art director now, and he's also thinking of someone from production. He hasn't kind of whittled down who he wants on yet, but he's having a think. So they will be on next Wednesday. So I'm looking forward to that one. That'll be fun. Jumping into their minds and seeing how they come up with the humor and the design behind the new Battletoads.
Absolutely.
Be awesome. But thank you everybody for stopping by this evening. It was a really fun show. Thank you again, Magnus. Thanks to Joe as well, who stopped by, and of course our panel members for this evening. I hope you have a really great night, and for those of you who have had the opportunity to unbox your new systems, go and enjoy them and have a great week and a great weekend, and we shall see you again next week. Thank you very much for everybody for stopping by.
Thank you,
guys.
Thank you for having me.
Later.
Yes, thank you. See you.
No problem. Thank you.
Bye-bye.